All right, guys, another episode, Gospel of Fire. You know what I'm doing. I'm doing this, not know the person, and talk to him for like 1 minute. Quick little Google search. I try not to do too much, but I like to find out as much as I can while on the podcast. I'm here with Michelle Tillis Lederman. How are you, Michelle?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Where are you?
I'm in South Orange, New Jersey.
All right, Dirty Jersey. That's where I grew
Oh,
up.
Jersey, baby. As the hour goes by, my hair will dry and it will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Puffy. Can you move your hair so I can see your big earrings?
I have none. I have none.
So I came from the big hair, big earrings days in Jersey.
But I got the nails. So.
Yes. All right. So I've been asking everyone this question since I started this new route that I'm on with the podcast. Why in the world? Because we were just talking about it a second ago. Like, you're asking me who my audience is, and we might not even have the same audience, So why in the world would you come on my meathead looking, I'm a meathead looking, right? Like, fight in the UFC, like, audience. Why would you come on my podcast? Why would you do this?
Because you asked me to.
That's it.
And actually, it's one of the 3 reasons people do anything is simply because they're asked.
Right. Okay.
And if I can reach more people and people that I don't normally reach with something that can help make a difference, I'm all in.
I love it. I love it. Sometimes I think we're afraid, like if you're going to talk to an audience and it might not be yours, and let's say there's 100 people in there. If 99 ignore you and 1 loves you and you change their life, is it worth it?
Of course. But I'm going to make them at least take something, maybe not 100% of the people, but I think most people out there are open-minded. I think most people out there are, even if they don't buy in, they still think and they still process, and it still impacts us. And sometimes the results are not immediate, but then it stews in there. So
yeah, it's weird. That stew is weird, right? And then all of a sudden, who knows why it happens or what had happened? A spark happens from something, I don't know, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And I love doing that. And it's it looks like that sounds like you love doing it too.
Yeah, it's funny. So I had this moment with my husband a day or 2 ago. He got really upset because one of his sweaters got into the wash, and my husband's so chill, but he was just so angry about his sweater getting ruined. And I said, "Don't yell at me." And he said, "Why? When you're upset, you yell, you get it out." And I thought about it, and I had to think about it. And the next day or 2 days, last night he came home and I'm like, "I'm sorry I didn't let you yell." I'm like, "You were right." Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Right. But here's the thing. All the people out there who are thinking, okay, I have those moments where I realize it later, go back and acknowledge whatever it is you realize to whoever it is that would care, because I got a really good kiss after that.
So it was worth it. Okay, so you're married, yeah?
Yes.
You have kids?
I have 2 boys. They're 12 and 14.
All right, I have 2 boys as well, my wife and I. Not as old. They are 10 and 6. So your boys are currently at school, and my boys are hopefully getting there.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Colorado.
Oh.
Yeah, I moved to Colorado 21 years ago. I left the dirty Jersey. I didn't like the dirty Jersey. Did you grow up there?
I grew up. I'm a Jersey girl, born and raised.
Born and raised, all in South Orange?
I grew up in West Orange. My mom's still there. I'm in South Orange. I was in the city for 14 years. My kids were born there, and came back for the babysitter.
Sounds good. So tell me about yourself. What is it that you do?
Well, if I were to tell you about myself, I would tell you that I'm an animal-loving, adrenaline, and travel junkie. But if I would tell you about what I do, that's a completely different question.
Hold on. All right, let's start there. Let's just talk about yourself. You're an animal-loving. What kind of animals?
All of them. If you go to my professional Facebook page, there's a photo album, me and the animals, and there'll be me hugging a sloth, bottle feeding a Siberian tiger. I was literally jumped by a black timber wolf, and there's a picture of me like falling into the mud with a big smile on my face.
All right, so I have two questions for you. One, have you seen Don't Fuck with Cats on Netflix?
No.
Oh my God. Go watch Don't Fuck with Cats.
Okay.
Be ready.
Okay.
Be really ready. Okay, you're going to binge this. And
well, I have been nose to nose with a full-grown Siberian tiger. And they are just big cats and they just want to play.
It's not that kind of Don't Fuck with Cats. I don't want to ruin it for you. And two, are you a vegan or a vegetarian? You're not. So you will still eat meat?
I will eat meat, yes.
I mean, I am too. I'm not judging.
My son's a vegetarian. Okay. We got him to be a pescatarian because we got to get some protein into him. But I just watched this show, What the Health. Have you ever seen that on Netflix?
No.
My dad came and made me watch it. He says, animal proteins are going to give you cancer. And, so I do watch, but yes, I had chicken for dinner last night.
All right. Yeah, there's another documentary called The Game Changers on Netflix, and it's all about going vegan. And I mean,
it's just
I think we all need to. It just tastes too fucking good. Like I don't know what kind of chicken you had, but fried chicken is fucking amazing.
I'm picky to begin with. Don't take away the few foods that I eat.
We're gonna die. This is the only guarantee. Look, it was really sad. Kobe died this weekend. Well, I don't know when this is gonna come out. So Kobe died, right? He wasn't like, fuck, man, I should have had more, I shouldn't have eaten that fucking steak.
Yeah.
Now look, I know we all want to live longer, so there's got to be a balance. We need to eat plants, but meat is I like meat too. You said you're an adrenaline junkie. What do you mean? What do you do for your adrenaline?
I didn't know I was until my husband told me I was when I made him jump out of a plane on our honeymoon. Okay. And I tried to convince him to rappel into the jungle and hike out, and he wouldn't do that one with me, but I did get him to cave tube with bats about this far from our face. And I've swam with sharks.
What do you mean you didn't know you were? When was your honeymoon?
15 years ago.
Okay. So, and how old are you now?
You're not supposed to ask a woman that old.
Come on, girl.
I am 48.
You're 48. So when you were 33, you look very good for 48.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when you were 33, you found out you were an adrenaline junkie. So like before 33, there was nothing.
I was probably my husband and I got married at 32, and we started dating about a year and a half before that. So somewhere after I was 30 and I was doing all these things, he was just like, "What are you, fucking nuts?"
Man, that's a thing. I'm going to go to your personal life a little bit, if that's okay. 32, 33 years old. You're like 30 before you even meet your husband, right?
I met him when I was 29.
Okay. That's a little bit of a long time to go, for especially females normally get married younger, than males do.
It depends on where you're from, right? So I'm East Coast, New York, New Jersey area. 30 is around the time that you get married around here.
I guess I left when I was 18, so I don't know. Yeah.
True. Yeah, no. To get married in your late 20s, maybe 28 up.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
You got to wait for the right guy or girl.
What did you do? What did you do in your 20s? You must, you were obviously doing something. I'm not talking about you're partying or anything like that, but so, you have these books behind you. And
yeah. So, this brings us back to the other question. So I'm a recovering CPA. So in my 20s, I was in finance. You like that, huh?
Oh yeah. Because my CPA just fucking quit.
Because it's not, the most, passionate of careers. Here's the thing. A lot of times we make decisions about what we're good at, or we make decisions because of a lifestyle that we want. But we don't necessarily make decisions over what is fulfilling or what is our passion. And I was just like everybody else. I am photographic for numbers. Apparently, I'm highly analytical because every review I ever had when I was in corporate America told me I was, which I didn't even know what that meant. And, so I was really good at this. And so I said, okay, well, this will give me the financial security I never had. That's the lifestyle I want. I want that power suit, that corner office. I want that all. I got it. I had a corner office looking out at the New York Stock Exchange. I spent 10 years in finance. I was the only woman on the trading floor. I was the only woman on a global venture capital team. Me too. It was like every freaking day. So that was just life. But something was always missing. And it felt like I got that corner office and I got where I wanted to get. And then I was like, I don't want to be here. And what I realized, and so my transition began around 2001 while I was working for the bank. And my boss became the CEO of the Tokyo branch. And he said, help me transition this team. So I went out to Japan. I hired a coach, paid her a buttload of money, and I did everything she did and then some. And I was really good at it. And so I said to the CEO at the end of the week, I said, I can do that. And he said, okay, you still have to do all this. I said, okay. And that's how it started. And so what I do now is, in the most simplistic terms, is I help people work better together. I help people communicate to connect, because everything that we're trying to accomplish is going to get there faster, easier, and better with connection, with relationships. And that's what the Connector's Advantage is.
I got you. I 100% believe in what you just said. I think every business is the people business.
Yeah. It's not even just business. There is, if you want to be happier, if you want to be healthier, there is correlations between connection and mortality. Social isolation has a greater impact on your mortality than obesity.
We're social beings, right? We live like these buildings that you and I are both sitting in right now called houses are probably not the best for us evolutionarily, right? Like, I don't know about the best, you need people is what I'm trying to say, right? You need your neighbors, you need your friends, community. It
takes a village, that saying comes from a reason.
And now, I've been on this anti-social media kick, even though I use it a ton. It's probably not the best, right? Because we connect over the cell phone.
Well, what's interesting is when I talk about connection, so the most recent book is the blue one behind me. It's called The Connector's Advantage, 7 Mindsets to Grow Your Influence and Impact. And one of the mindsets is social and curious. And so a lot of people really are like, oh, that's not me. I'm an introvert. And I actually, I think social media can be great. I think any platform in which you can be curious about somebody and connect with them and learn about them and form some type of interaction is great. And I think the more channels that you do that over, the stronger that interaction becomes. I think you reached out to me on either through my website or on LinkedIn or something like that. And now we're on the phone. And then we'll email later. And so we'll have multiple channels. I'll
be honest, it wasn't me that reached out. I hired a company. But I approved it. So I approved the reach out, but it wasn't personally me.
That's okay. Because we're connecting now. And then this conversation will lead to another point of contact. And so social media can suck up all your time. And I don't think it should be your only channel of connection, but I think it should definitely be one of the channels. And it doesn't have to be all of them. Like, you don't have to be on Insta and Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and have a life.
Yeah, no, for sure. So so you do the Japan thing, right? And and you get like this taste. Yeah. And you were married or were not married? Not married.
I was not married at that time.
Okay. And so what was that transition like for you? Scary, not scary? How did you, if you've got this, you've got this corner office, like you said, I don't know, maybe you have a sweet Benz or I don't know, BMW because, I
was living in the city. There was no car.
I'm just saying on the East Coast, it's Benzes and BMWs. Out here in Colorado, it's Audis.
And the Prius.
Right? Yeah. No, I'm saying like the status car.
Got it.
Right? Like, the cars, like the nicer end car that people drive.
So, it was a slow transition. And that's what I would tell people who are thinking that they're listening and they're like, I feel stuck. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not like you have to flip a switch. It's not like you have to say, okay, I quit. I didn't do that. I was making a lot of money and it didn't make sense. Right. So I was working for this bank. I started to realize what I wanted to do and I spoke up and I started to do it on the side. And I started getting trained. I started going to classes. I started getting certifications. I got appointed to be an adjunct professor at NYU's business school in 2004. And at the same time, I incorporated my company. I was still full-time in finance, but I was getting to go. The boss would basically say, hey, I want to teach people performance management, or I want to teach people interviewing skills, or I want to teach people this. And he'd say, go take this course and then go teach it in New York and Japan. And I'd be like, okay.
So many people. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, you go. Finish. So
I was just saying, so it was like these stepping stones, and I did that. So I started the transition in 2001, 2004 incorporated. I landed my first client, which was JP Morgan. I landed my second client, which was Deutsche Bank, because I was in the industry and it was really easy access to some of these names. And then once you can drop one name, you can drop three names. And then people are like, well, if you're working with them, we want to work with you.
Right.
And so by 2005, at this point, I am married and I'm actually pregnant with my first child. I have been on my own ever since.
Yeah, man. Like so many people think that okay, I'm done with this, so I got to do this. And it's like, yo, man, you got bills to pay, right?
I already had like a certain amount of income. I call it the nut, right? You got to cover your nut. Mm-hmm. And it's not what you want to make. It's not what you were making before. It's what you need to make to survive. And I already had income from Rutgers Executive Education, income from American Management Association, income from NYU, and a couple of clients. And so I had enough to survive. And that's when I pulled the plug.
Gotcha. And it's kind of like a judge on how happy you are sometimes too, right? Like if you're miserably unhappy, then okay, maybe you're going to take an income hit possibly, right? But like if you're not miserably unhappy, you're not going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to fucking blow my life up and go from, I don't know how much you're making, let's just say 200 grand to 50. Like that,
that's not far off from what was going on about then.
Yeah. Right. But like, that's a big hit. That's a huge hit, you know?
And I was pregnant and I was putting my husband through business school.
Right.
So I was the breadwinner.
Right. So that's a big jump. And what does your husband do now? I'm sorry.
He's the VP of IT for leading hotels of the world. He's the head tech guy.
Got you. All right. Does he like it?
He loves it because it is so in tune with the two passions he has, which is technology and travel. So
you guys get to travel a lot.
Yeah. My kids have been to 20 countries and they're 12 and 14 years old. And we've got about three or four more countries that we have planned for 2020.
Oh, nice. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
I have a top 5.
Give me your top 5.
All right. So Israel, Thailand. I was at Thailand on 9/11 and the people were just so amazing. And there's just so much there. I love Costa Rica. I love the rainforest. I love nature and animals. Australia, specifically Tanzania, because there's more sheep than people and you can play with kangaroos. What did I do? I did Australia, Costa Rica, Iceland has recently hit my top 5.
Okay, nice.
I like the it feels like you're on the moon type of place. Like it's like no place you've ever been. Although I will say it's not another country, but in our own country, Yellowstone took my breath away.
That's interesting. Yeah, it was all right for me. Like I'm not that kind of a nature person. I love beaches.
Then go to Thailand.
Yeah. So it's super interesting. So for me, I've traveled a lot too, but I've traveled for fighting, right? So really intense short trips, right? Like, so I've, and almost all of the trip gets judged on the result of said fight, whether it be mine or my friends, So like, for example, I feel really bad for Japan because I fucking hate it. Like, I hate it. I remember good ramen. Like there was this one ramen place right around from our hotel. And then everything else I remember is not fun.
Okay. So I want to play a little game with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this over there, The 11 Laws of Likeability, is my first book.
Okay.
And the first chapter I wrote in that book is the law of energy. And that energy is contagious, and to understand energy and how to shift our energy. So you have an association with Japan because of, something that happened and you have this energy around it.
Right.
So there's a couple of things that we can do. And so one of the things I'll tell you a story, and then we can think about how to apply this to your association with Japan. I was with the career services department of some university trying to land them as a client. And we're having this great conversation and all the energy's there and all of this is happening. And then all of a sudden we're 10 minutes before the end of the meeting and all of this is happening. And I was like, ooh, what did I do? What did I say?
What just happened?
Yeah. So I asked and I was like, is everything okay? And she's like, oh yeah. It's not you. It's the student coming in after you, can't stand them. And I was like, oh, okay, well, phew, not me. And I said, well, why? And she said, shoots down every idea, is really negative. I'm just not getting anywhere with them. And I was like, okay, can you tell me about a student you love working with? And she said, oh yeah, there's this woman and we collaborate, we brainstorm, we exchange and she implements and I've seen the difference. And I was like, okay, I want you to try this. When the student you can't stand comes in, I want you to think about the student that you love. I want you to greet that student as if it's the one you can't wait to work with. I want you to have all of the energy that you would have given to that other student and just see what happens. That's it. My phone rang about 2 hours later. No hello, no hi Michelle, it's so-and-so from so-and-so. It was just, oh my God, that worked. And so this is the idea of invoking real emotion. If you can think about something, right, that ramen, that, like something amazing.
It was so good. Once I found it, I went every day.
Right. So if you can invoke how you felt in that moment and then start to shift your energy around that association of, oh my God, it was like all my taste buds were firing and it gave me all this great energy. Or it was so relaxing to sit there in this quiet place and just have noodles every day. And then you have this quiet energy and you start to change the associations because you're finding real emotion and attributing it.
Okay. It's hard. It's so hard with fighting because, my friend ended up getting his head split open in a fight, right? So he's got if I see him, he's got the scar still running down his face from that trip. So it gets you're like, oh, damn, so I'm going to try it though.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it.
I'm one of those people, and I'm not a Pollyanna, right? So I haven't had the easiest life. It was a challenging upbringing. Many people had it worse, but it doesn't mean whatever we had wasn't easy. And I had this philosophy of what can I learn, right? So
you had that from a young age?
Yeah.
Where do you think that came from? That's so hard as a child.
My parents split when I was 8.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the ugliest divorces, War of the Roses level. They still can't be in the same room. It was so awful.
40 years later, they can't be in the same room? I'm sorry.
Sometimes we force it, but it's very uncomfortable for everybody.
Right.
And so I always say, well, I learned what not to do.
Okay.
So I need to always find something good in the bad. And there's some things that are impossible. Right. There's a couple of things, there's just nothing I can find. But I then say, okay, well, what can I learn that I can take forward? It might not be I can find good in this, but I can find something in this. And so you had a bad experience. Your friend had a bad experience. So what can we take away? Hey, I learned a different move. I learned how to protect myself differently. I learned, right?
Oh, I 100% agree. I'm better because of it. Yeah.
There you go.
No, for sure. I'm not mad. So I'm I'm a stoic, right? I call myself a stoic Buddhist, kind of. Because I don't believe in the religion of, I don't believe in the religion of anything. But the philosophies of specific religions, I will believe. Or I will not believe, but just take into my life. But Stoicism, everyone thinks Stoicism is no emotion, right? Stoicism says to feel all of the emotion. It's the exact opposite. It just says that you take what you need from it, kind of, right? And be grateful for it, right? So I'm grateful for my Japan experience, right?
So then you don't hate Japan. You've already started to shift your association with it.
Yes, of course. And I know it was good for me and it was probably good for my friend. And even though his face is split open, right? like, so I don't hate, I guess hate is the wrong word, right? Like I did not enjoy the trip while I was on it, but I regret no experience of my life.
I love that.
Because
okay. I can work with that.
if you regret the experience and you wish it was different, then who knows what would be different?
Well, we're talking about a concept about reframing right. How we look at something, right?
Right.
And we can look at it as, so what you were talking about was in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment. In the moment. Yeah, in the moment. Because, oh man, I mean, if we're gonna rehash it, like it was just not fun. So my friend, he weighs 200 pounds normally, right around there, and he had to weigh 155 for this fight. So it was so brutal. And yeah, it's what we do as fighters. It's crazy, right?
No, not one.
No. So we would he could barely eat at the end, so we would put him in the room and try to sneak out so that we could go eat, because we're there on Tuesday, man. We're there on Tuesday for a Saturday fight. I'm not going to not eat for 4 days.
Yeah.
Right. I know he is, but I'm not. So we'd try to run out and sneak away. And then he'd hear us and he'd be like, "Where you guys going?" And we're like, "We're going to go eat, man." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to come." And then he would sit there and he'd get right up in our faces and be like, "How's that fucking taste?" Or he'd be like, "Order more food, motherfucker. Order more food. Go order more fucking food." And you're like, "Okay, dude. Okay, I'll go order more food," right? So this whole experience was fucking terrible. And then I had to rehydrate him, right? Because IVs work really well. I'm not a nurse, right? And I had never done it before.
Okay, I'm squeamish. I don't like this.
Get ready.
No, I don't want to know.
It's coming. No, it's coming. So my wife taught me how to do it because she is a nurse. Right? So I have my friends over the week before, and I'm learning how to start an IV on people. And so I'm like, okay, I got it. And I have it all written down because I'm in Japan. I can't call her, right? Because it's fucking time difference, right? I'm all over. So I learned how to do it. And then I go and I'm doing everything right. But then I fuck up one thing. I don't take the tourniquet off. So right, it's just coming out, the blood. I'm like, oh God, he's gonna die. And I'm just losing it. And so it was a fun. But man, I'm so much better at IVs now.
Okay, we need a new topic.
All right, new topic. So yeah, I don't regret any of it. I don't regret any of it. I
was going to say, that's actually my philosophy around jobs, right? Because I spent 10 years in a career that I didn't love, but I don't regret it because I have credibility in being in front of an audience now, teaching them management and leadership, because I was managing people at the age of 22 because they're idiots and they made me a manager at the age of 22, right? And so everything that I did, I learned something that I can tell a story in front of 1,000 people now that teaches them something about how they can lead and how they can communicate and how they can build a team and how they can connect to those people.
Do you use stories a lot when you teach?
Oh, yeah. So you asked me before about the transition. Mm-hmm. And I teach communications, leadership, management, all of those soft skills that I say are really hard. But I came out of finance. And so when I went to the American Management Association, where I had taken a lot of courses to learn content, I went up to them and I said, "Hey, I am a communications trainer and I want to train for you." They said, "Let me see your resume." They look at my resume. They said, "No, you're a finance trainer." I said, "Okay, hi, I'm a finance trainer. I want to train for you." And they said, "Okay." So that's what I mean by stepping stones. I couldn't convince them that I was a communications trainer because my entire history of work was in finance. So I taught finance until I proved to them I was great in front of an audience and knew how to teach. And then they let me teach communications.
Right.
But you asked me about storytelling. So do you know anything about accounting?
I look at my books every month for my businesses.
Okay. So there are some principles of accounting, like materiality or going concern or objectivity. There's
none of that.
Okay. So these principles of accounting. And when people come to this class to take accounting, they're usually prisoners. They're usually forced to be there. They don't want to be there. It was called finance and accounting for non-financial managers. So people who don't like math and numbers were in this room having to learn something that they dreaded. And so I would start with telling them a story. I would take the annual report and I would say, accounting is just a story of what happened last year. And the annual report is just your storybook. And so we just need to learn how to read the story and, you know, why they tell it a certain way. And so then I would tell them about my dad, who is now in his 80s. And when he was a kid, he worked in a bowling alley. And he would sit up in the rafters and after each frame, jump down, reset the pins and jump back up. And he earned a penny a frame. And I thought it was a penny a pin. He corrected me because I would say he had to bend down, you know, every time to get a penny. He goes, no, I had to bend down 10 times to earn that penny. So my entire childhood, if there was a penny on the ground and I didn't pick it up, I was disrespecting my father.
Oh yeah, man. I grew up like this too.
Okay. So you get it.
I grew up with a Holocaust surviving Jews. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Same in my family. So.
Are you a Jew?
I am, member of the tribe. You can't tell from this hair?
Well, you know, you never want to assume, but, you know, Letterman, you know, like.
Yeah. Letterman is a leather man.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah. Tillis is a Lithuanian root, so we're the Eastern European Jews.
Okay.
So, but we digress.
No. So, yeah, me too. I was Polish.
So my dad, like if he missed the toll booth when we used to use coins, he would open the door and then he'd pick up everyone else's coins.
Everyone else's, oh my God.
Right? Okay, so we had the same dad. All right. So grandfather for me. Okay, so I tell everybody this story and then I say, this is the concept of materiality. What is worth bending down for? So now I tell my dad, I'm telling the story in accounting, this 10, 15 years ago, and I say, you know, that, you know, you make me, he's like, you know, a penny. I'm like, well, Dad, would you bend for a nickel now? He's like, would you bend for a dime? He's like, would you bend for a quarter? Yes, I'll still bend for a quarter. And that was his materiality threshold. So and I'm like, really? So I've been picking up disgusting, dirty pennies my whole life to show you respect. And now you won't do it.
You still do it, right?
Right. I still do it. And he looks at me, he's like, inflation. So I tell this story to the audience to teach them the concept of materiality and what a materiality threshold is. I said, would you lend somebody $1 and worry about getting it back? No. $5, $10, $20, $100? What's your materiality threshold? At what point do you care? And that's all it is. And so at the end of the day, I'll say, all right, bowling alley story, materiality, Giants jacket, objectivity, buying a new car, depreciate, and they learn the concepts through storytelling. And that's how we learn.
Well, that's how we live.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we live. It's through storytelling. That's why we're all here, so we can tell a story.
And so now everybody who's listening knows the concept of materiality and basically what amount for you affects your decision-making.
And a materiality threshold.
Yeah.
I didn't know either one of them 4 or 5 minutes ago. But but you did it. It was so, it's about your dad and you and this thing that you have. It's about this connection and communication with people. So like, it goes back to that, what I said a little earlier ago when we were talking about everything's the people business, right?
Well, absolutely. That's exactly my platform. That's everything I teach and I talk about is understanding that whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, I'm going to say it again, faster, easier, better. Faster, easier, better. That's the advantage. So if you think about getting a new job, 85% of jobs come from networking.
Right.
Promotions, 70% more likely if you have an active mentor relationship. You want to get a sale, people do business with people they like. And you're 4 times more likely to buy when you're referred by a friend. 100%. Right? Like whatever it is, I will give you a statistic because that photographic thing for numbers is still there.
I know it. I have a martial arts business, right? And we spend money on advertising, right? Like you have to, you can't not. But all of our own, like the vast majority of our leads come from somebody else that's already there. Yeah. Because we trust each other. Right?
It's relationship-based business building. It's referral-based business, right? It's the law of association. I trust this guy trusts you, therefore I will trust you.
I will trust you. Yep. So you've been talking about communication as well. I just read this book, Nonviolent Communication. Have you ever read it?
I have heard of it, but I have not read it.
Man, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. And it's helped me communicate better.
Tell me something you learned.
Tell me something.
See, I like to reverse the interview process.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't really like to interview people. I just like to talk to people. Has this felt like an interview?
No, we're just chatting.
All right. Fuck. Thank God. Nobody likes to sit here. I mean, if I was going to interview you, I'd have a sheet of paper. Michelle Tillis Lederman, do you? It's fucking stupid. Right? Like, so what did I learn from nonviolent communication? The biggest thing that I learned is that everything comes down to feelings and needs. So when we are having a communication problem, you are feeling a certain way because you have a need that is not getting met. And if I can speak to you in that sense, like, oh man, that I'm really sorry that you are feeling insecure, even though you lashed out in some way, you know? So how can I help you meet your need for security to feel safe? You know?
Okay.
Like, and going about it that way. And it's really helped me, especially like with my wife. Look, I'm a big guy, right? And most people talk to me in a way like there might be a fight because they know I fight, right? Especially males, like other males, you know? It's like, okay, I can use these words, but I can't use those words. If I'm mad at him, I can bub up, right? Like they have to walk through it in a certain way. And I'm the boss, right? So they have to, you know, people are scared of that. But with my wife, how bad I can beat the shit out of people doesn't fucking matter at all, right? Like it's not even on the table. Right? She's not thinking about if I call him a fucking asshole, he's going to kick me in the head. Right? Like that's not even
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Right? So I have to communicate with her in a way that is all that like I can like hear her, you know, and she can try to hear me. And then when the person doesn't hear you, like the other really good thing I learned was after you say what you need, right? Like, hey, if when you state your need, you repeat and say, hey, can you please tell me what you heard?
This is a technique actually used by industrial psychologists and marriage counselors.
Yeah.
And what I often tell people if they're working on listening skills is give yourself the job of being able to paraphrase and repeat back and acknowledge what somebody else has said before you're allowed. Because otherwise you're thinking about what's my counter argument?
Right. Yes.
And what am I going to say? And it's actually a technique I teach called acknowledge and add. Right? Because a lot of times we disagree and counter, or we agree and counter. But if we're going to counter, we're not really agreeing, and it's confusing. So I say acknowledge and add. So if somebody says something you probably don't agree with, you can say, well, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. Here's how I was thinking.
Right.
I don't discount, discredit, or dismiss anything that you've said.
My friend's got me to do that. He goes, that's a very interesting perspective. That's what he said. You know, he goes, my opposite perspective, you know, or not even opposite, my different.
Yeah, he doesn't even need to use the word opposite.
No, he doesn't say opposite. Sorry, I said that. My different perspective is blah, blah, blah. And then you can both think it continues the conversation rather than it starting like, and like when I say nonviolent, right? Like I'm not talking about actual violence, but the words we use can be very violent, right? Like they are fighting words. Like someone's going to win this argument, and nobody really has to win.
Well, it's like the spectrum from passive to aggressive, right? So I do this thing where I get my exercise in front of the room because I run from one side to the other, talking about the passive to aggressive spectrum, because we have a fight or flight response, right? This is your world. We fight or we flight. And so the fight is the aggressive language. It's be in my office at 3:00, right? And the flight is the passive, which either does nothing or says, could we talk? And if they say no, you know,
then it's over. Yeah.
So I try to teach assertive language, which is in the middle of the spectrum. And it's not fight, it's not flight, it's stand your ground. And it's assume the yes. So it's, you know, we need to set up a time to talk. Which is better for you, 3 or 4 p.m.? Would you like to meet in my office or go get coffee? Right. So you can be deferential to what's convenient for them, but it's happening.
Right. It's like sales. That's how we sign people up. That's how we get people to come. Hey, when do you like to normally work out? Do you like to work out in the morning or at night? Answer and you answer, and I say, oh, great. Okay. I have a class at both 5:30 and 6:30.
Not that early.
Yeah, so not for you, no. You know,
Well, that's why my hair is wet.
That's why your hair's wet, yeah.
I just came from the gym. I got my mom to go to the gym with me for the first time.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Very good. So where do you, with your career and life now, I can see that you've written a lot of books. Did you write them or did you do the ghostwriter route? Because I went the ghostwriter route.
So the first book, I wrote every single word and then got 17 pages of feedback from the publisher about how I needed to change all of those words. And so I hired an editor to help me parse through the feedback and fix it up. The second one, which is the one above it, I
can't see that one really. What one?
So that one's called Nail the Interview, Land the Job. Let's see if I can. Oop! I just lost my camera.
I see you.
Okay. There you go.
There we go. All right.
There, it's kind of coming into focus. Actually, the second one was the Heroes Get Hired. I actually did a gift for veterans to help them get back into the workplace. And so I got one of my clients to sponsor the book. NBC produced it. I worked with 3 different veteran organizations, and it's free for all veterans. So it's an enhanced ebook. There's 20 videos. There's activities. They can go to Heroes Get Hired on my website or on Amazon, and it's all free for veterans. And so I did that as a gift. And then, and with that one, I hired my editor that helped me with the first book, and I dictated the book to her. I just said, okay, I knew the structure. I knew exactly, I could teach this in my sleep. And I said, now I feel like I'm Where's Waldo with the camera.
No worries.
And so I just dictated to her, and she gave me about a 10,000 word shell, and I turned it into about 55,000 words. And then kind of went with that mode going forward where
Gotcha.
I'm much better at talking. So if I talk it out and then I get, something to respond to, then I can write it out.
I don't write it at all. I just talk it. And they're all my words. Like my book is 100%. There's not even a word in there that I didn't speak. But I do the talking thing way better. It was 70, 80 hours on the phone or some shit.
Yeah.
I love it.
We would record them and then we'd transcribe them and then I would respond to them.
Yeah, I loved it. She, like the lady who wrote my book, like we're friends. Like, yeah. I absolutely loved it. So
I would say I wrote all 4 of them, but I definitely hired editors, to give me feedback and to give me help along the way.
Did you go the self-publishing route or did you like get book deals?
I've published all 4 books 4 different ways.
Okay.
I actually have done a webinar on different ways to publish a book. So the first one was traditional. I had the agent, had the advanced, all traditional. The second one was a sponsor because I got somebody to put up money to help us give this gift. The third one I did a self-published route, and the fourth one I did hybrid publishing.
What's hybrid?
So hybrid is a mix between the traditional and the self, like kind of the benefits of both. So it is an actual publisher. I do get royalties. But I only get the royalties on bookstore sales, Amazon sales, foreign rights, and audio. Anything that's an ebook or bulk sales come directly to me. And so the royalty is much higher. There was no advance. I have a lot more control over the styling, the cover, everything.
So obviously your first book, you went the traditional publishing route and got the advance and all of that stuff, right? Like did you enjoy that process or what was that process like?
It was the right process at that time.
And how did you make that happen? Because like your first book and you, I don't know, what year was that?
2011 it came out. So I got the offer in 2008.
Okay. So you got the offer in 2008. So you were still pretty much new in your field. Like you weren't like super established.
I had a decent business going, but I wasn't doing keynotes or anything like that. I was just having my training company.
Right. What did you email? Yeah. Why would the publisher do that? I guess is my question.
So you have to think also about 2008. Self-publishing wasn't as easily accessible.
Right.
I did have an offer from what did they call it back then? It was a kind of a form of hybrid, but I think they called it a vanity press or something like that, where you could pay. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
So that's the route I did last year, 2 years ago.
Well, it's different now. I would call it hybrid now.
Okay.
And so the publishing industry has really evolved in the last, 12 years. Like if you think about the access to being able to self-publish and to do all these things yourself. And back then it didn't exist. And it did, but it just not at the quality level that you could do it now.
Right.
And so you say, how do you get things done? Everything you get done through relationships. So I put a little post on Editor Freelance Association saying that I wanted to work on a proposal. I'm like, I want to write a book, not a proposal. So I wanted somebody to help me with a proposal. I knew I needed to do that. And I had some friends that wrote books and they kind of gave me advice. And I went to the library and I bought the Publishing for Dummies and all that stuff. And so I hired a guy. And then he introduced me to a bunch of agents. And then I landed an agent. And I was already working for the American Management Association. So I went to their publishing arm and I just introduced myself. I walked upstairs and said, hi. And I built a relationship. And then my agent got me offers from McGraw-Hill and Adams Media and actually higher offers. But I had already had a relationship with Amicom. And so I went back to the connection point that I knew. Best decision I ever made, to go with a small business book publisher, because I became a lead book. They put me on TV. They put me on the radio. They gave me a tour. They put money behind the book.
You made a relationship.
Yeah. And this book is now in like a dozen languages.
Nice. I'm in the process of writing another one, and we're in this like agent process, like finding a good agent. And like the team that I'm working with, I'm like, look, just get me in the fucking room, just get me in the room. And like, I can't say I'm doing a lot of work because like, I mean, look, if it happens, great. I have a great, in my opinion, in theirs, I have a great book in my head, but I'm like, just get me in the room with somebody. Let me make the relationship. So
why traditional?
What's that?
Why going traditional if you've already done the hybrid route?
Because I don't want to spend the money again. I didn't make any money on the first book. I got my ROI for what I decided was going to be my ROI. Right? Like, so I am well paid back.
Right.
Emotionally.
The way we are paid for our books is not always through the book sale.
Right. But I don't want to do, I'm not a writer. So I hired this company called Scribe, and they used to be Book in a Box. Right. And so I worked with them. And then the lead guy, like the guy who worked on my book, he was leaving Scribe and he contacted me. He's like, yo, man, I've never done this before. I've been working for Scribe forever. I do this other thing, but I want to, you have to write this other book. You have to write this other book, and you're going to crush this. Like, so it wasn't like, I would love to write another book. I just don't want to, I don't want to pay, like I don't want to pay. Like, I have my network. I have my people that I, evangelical to, whatever, preach to. But he was like, come on. And I was like, okay. I was like, you make it happen and I'll fucking do it. And he was like, look, we're going to get you this kind of deal and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. He's like, it takes a minute. It's not like Scribe. Right. Like, and like, that's my part. My first book was this Scribe. It just went, boop, 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 boop. Like, you know what I mean? It went fast. You just did it.
This took longer than birthing both my kids combined.
Yeah.
It was 3 years from proposal to bookshelf.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at, right? I'm like 6 months in here, 8 months in. And I'm like, yo, dude, why aren't we writing this fucking book yet? You said we're going, and I don't say it quite like this, right? Like, but in my head, that's where I am. And, but it's all good,
So what about self-publishing then?
I mean, the vain part of me is I want to get paid this time.
Well, I mean, you actually get the most revenue from self-publishing. You could put together a self-published book for about 10 grand.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I know the advance that I'm going to accept, and if you get me in the room with somebody, I'm going to get that advance. And if you get me in the room with if I have a good agent and the right publisher, yeah, let's go. I can't touch it. I can't touch it on my own. So that's it. That's it. And look, if I don't get it, then I'm fine not writing the book.
Yeah.
Like I've done it. Like that's cool.
Yeah. My husband's like, when I said I wanted to write this last book, he's like, why? And I said, I have something I have to say. Mm-hmm. And he's like, damn, that's a good answer.
Yeah. So I get to say what I want. Like, I have my podcast. I have I have thousands of, of students, because we have 7 schools. Like, I get to reach out. I get to do a lot. So I'm good with it. I don't need.
Yeah.
So, but the book thing, I was approached. So if you ask me why not, it's because I don't really need to. I don't really need the money.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not doing it for the money, but like, if you want my time like that, then it's got,
I tell people all the time, you need to have a real clear why if you're writing a book, because it's not, it is a long process. It's a painful process. Marketing the book is worse than writing it, and you're not making money from the book, right? Yeah, you make some, like I earned out my advance in the first 6 months on that book.
Right.
But the checks are small at this point. It's been out for 9 years.
Right.
And I still get a royalty check every 6 months. It's sold every single week since it's come out in 2011.
Nice. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back to my original question here as we wrap up. You can't do you do every podcast you're asked to do?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I did think you were kind of interesting. Okay. And it's about timing, right? So, right. I accept a lot of podcasts around promoting the new book.
Okay.
So, this matters to me. This work matters to me. Helping people understand how and why connection is important. And so if I have an audience that I wouldn't normally have access to be able to give some ideas and give some thoughts and have them do that little stewing thing we talked about earlier, then I'm going to take it. And then I go in phases. Like, you're literally 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 6th one this week. I have 2 more tomorrow.
Okay.
One is like in a studio and so this is a busy week for them. And then I'll be like, yeah, I got to say no for a while, because I'm like tapped out.
Right. Sure. No, I get it. I think we were scheduled a week ago.
Yes. As you can probably still hear from the cough, I'm getting over a respiratory infection, and this is about 2.5 weeks in, and I still sound a little,
Yeah, no, now you sound fine.
You wouldn't have wanted me about a week ago, because
I get it.
Really.
I get it. The flu this year, whatever the cold this is, it's been terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate it, and I do really enjoy talking to people. It's my favorite thing. Probably outside of jiu-jitsu, outside of training martial arts and maybe cooking barbecue. It's up there with that. It's my favorite thing to do. Is like kind of what you're talking about. Find that connection, right?
Yeah. It was just a fun conversation.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad it didn't feel like an interview. Michelle, tell the people where they can reach you.
The best place is actually my website. It's Michelle with 2 L's, Tillis, Tillis, Lederman, Lederman.com. And from there, you can find all the other places. My favorite social media is LinkedIn. I'm on a lot of the other ones, but LinkedIn is really the place for me. I have a YouTube channel. I've got a blog, and I give lots of free stuff away because I think it matters. So you can get a free chapter of probably 3 of these books behind me right on my website. And if you put in /gift pack, you'll see all the other things I give away.
Well, thanks for coming on, Michelle. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I hope everyone goes out there and finds your power, guys.